awaiting the entrance of Johnny Tapia, the current WBO Super Bantamweight champion. Dave, there's the tail of the tape.
Well, Hal, Tapia 5 years older, the height 5'6" for 5'3" in favor of Tapia. Right about the weight division limit there. Since it's a non-title fight, Tapia and Miranda can go a little bit over. A little bit of reach for Johnny Tapia. We've seen that before.
And the height and reach advantage that you're looking at there is one that, while it glares at you, sometimes Johnny doesn't use it. Sometimes he wants to walk inside and fight with guys.
Sometimes he does. Sometimes he uses it. He's talking about the fact that he would like to use it more in upcoming fights. He thinks he's learned to turn his shoulder more and get out of difficulty when he does that.
All right, well, let's take a look at the rules, the Nevada boxing rules, Dave.
10 points to the winner of a round, Al. 3 knockdowns in 1 round would end it. No standing 8 count. Referee would have to make a judgment call. Fighter can be saved by the bell only in the last round, and only the referee can stop the fight.
So those are the rules, and we are, again, as I said, awaiting Johnny Tapia, who is on his way in, we presume. Well, it's a longer walk than normal on our fights. So it's taken him a while to actually get here. It's Jesse Miranda, and he's letting Jesse Miranda stay in the heat. Here comes Johnny Tapia.
Well, while we've got this moment, I'd like to welcome you back today. Last night I know you were at a wedding, and you were missed here. Your lovely bride and Kathy Rocco, the sister of your bride, Connie, got married, and I heard it was quite an affair.
It was delightful, and I'm delighted to be back working with you, Mr. Bontempo, and we're happy to be here on ESPN2, where we can bring you some boxing action. That is Jesse Miranda. That is Johnny Tapia. He is in the ring, the WBO Super Bantamweight champion. This will not be a title match. The title is not on the line. And for Tapia, however, as he knows his potential rival, Danny Romero, experience, you've got to watch out for these guys you can stub your toe against. Michael Buffer is in the center of the ring. Let's go up to him right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Caesar's Palace here in Las Vegas, Nevada, where tonight Top Rank Incorporated, along with your undisputed, undefeated King of Beers, Budweiser. This Bud's for you present an evening of professional boxing for your entertainment. All the bouts you see tonight are sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Let's get things started, ladies and gentlemen, with a 10-round bout. This is in the junior bantamweight division. When the bell rings, the man in charge of the action, referee Joe Cortez. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the black trimmed with red and weighing in at 115½ pounds. He's from Phoenix, Arizona, and brings a record of 11 victories with 6 KOs against only 3 defeats. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesse Bam Bam Miranda. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the blue trunks trimmed with black and white, weighing in at 116 pounds. His professional record, 30-0 with 2 draws, 18 KOs. He's from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Ladies and gentlemen, his title's not on the line tonight, but he is the undefeated world champion, the baby-faced assassin, Johnny Tapia.
All right, gentlemen, we went over the rules in the dressing room. I want a good, clean fight. Obey my commands at all times. Shake hands. Good luck to both of you.
Who comes in here, as you said, with the 11-3 record. And that is Johnny Tapia, the undefeated, though he has 2 draws on his record, WBO Super Bantamweight champion. Johnny comes in here off a win over Arthur Johnson, in which he defended his title, the 3rd defense of the title. But it was a 12-round bout that was difficult at best. Some people even thought he might have lost that. It was a very close fight, but he got the nod.
I think in that fight he had trouble with Johnson being a taller fighter than he was used to, so Johnny did not get the chance to display the vintage jab that he's been able to use throughout the years. Now here against a smaller fighter, he'll be punching down, he can use his reach. We'll see if he uses the right hand lead against the southpaw style and the double left hooks.
There's nothing you need to do with that side. It's on the front, all right? Julius, you're aware of that, right?
There's the hook from Tapia that you're talking about, Dave.
And Tapia really does seem like he's ready to utilize his reach. And there's the shoulder turn. Side punches and utilized the shoulder turn to block shots on his way in.
Tapia has always had a very good double left hook. It's always been a great weapon, as you mentioned, and really since his comeback after the layoff because of drugs and alcohol, he's become more of a knockout puncher.
He really did come down and sit down once. There was one major exception to that at a fight we did a couple of years ago where he had that stand-up style. But then after that, he went back to the slugging. Now he's intimating he may try to use the stick a little bit more.
Halfway through round 1, it is scheduled for 10. Johnny Tapia is in the purple trunks, and Jesse Bam Bam Miranda is in the black. Of course, if you caught Dave last night as he did the fight with Charlie Steiner, you saw Danny Romero get upset by Willie Salazar in a huge upset, and so it calls to mind the fact that you cannot take anybody lightly.
A guy with 21 losses can all of a sudden take a major step up if you give him a chance early in the fight. Early part of any non-title fight especially is very critical, because take a look at the challenger, see if he thinks he's in this fight, and you'll see the confidence level go way up if he's in there.
You know, the thing that bedeviled Romero getting hit and hurt, and by the way, he had surgery, or he's going to have surgery when he gets back to Albuquerque for a broken bone under his eye. Johnny Tapia, in his previous defense against Ricardo Vargas, it was a technical draw after 8 rounds. He suffered a lot of cuts and swelling, so that can happen, and that can be a big problem.
And where that really bothers fighters after the fact is it takes a long time to recover. Now, Danny Romero will need probably about 10 weeks before he can get back and up in shape again.
Under 20 seconds left to go here in round 1.
Big hook by Johnny Tapia.
Miranda gets a left hand, and Tapia with a good counter right. So round 1 will pass into the night. We'll be back for round 2. Back here at Caesars Palace for round 2 of the battle between Johnny Tapia, the WBO Super Bantamweight champion. He is in the purple trunks, and the left-hander in the black and red trunks, Jesse Miranda. This is not a title fight. It is scheduled for 10 rounds. I'm Al Bernstein here with Dave Bontempo. Delighted you joined us.
Well, we saw a clubbing right cross thrown there by Miranda. He has not been averse to picking his shots, but he's got that reach disadvantage to contend with, and you see how it affects him there.
There was that double and triple left hook from Johnny Tapia that we have alluded to.
And Johnny Tapia did land a good combination, but then he went a little bit too far back after getting it in there, and he let Miranda come right back at him. Miranda is dipping his shoulder when he comes in to try and throw a powerful left hand. And if Tapia sees that, there can be a big right-hand bomb coming down the chute.
Mentioned that Miranda came in at 11-5. His last fight was a win over Abner Barajas. Not too bad a fighter. TKO in 5 rounds. He's got 6 KOs among his 11 wins. So he's got some pop.
I'd always like to be the challenger in a non-title fight. There's nothing to lose. You can only look good and at least get another fight out of it if you do well. And if you win, you get a title shot almost immediately.
Good left hooks downstairs by Tapia. Well, he may have a new trainer, but he's the same Johnny Tapia in most respects. We want to mention, by the way, the man that you have known as his trainer and manager, Paul Chavez, who apparently is not involved with Tapia anymore. Tapia has gone to Big Bear. He's left Albuquerque. And the details of it are sketchy. I got a chance to chat very briefly with Johnny, and he didn't really, as you did, and didn't really shed too much light on it. But whatever the parting of the ways was about, I want to say one thing publicly right now. Paul Chavez is a fine man who stuck by Johnny Tapia during some tough times. And I'm not casting aspersions on Johnny with that comment. I'm just saying that for the record.
No, and that was true before the Martinez fight. We saw the card that Johnny had sent to Paul Chavez the morning of the championship fight, thanking him for all the loyalty through the years. Now, Paul Chavez probably with managerial rights on paper, and that might be decided elsewhere at some time down the road.
That is true. Very good point, Dave. He is the manager of record. It's just that in the last 4 weeks, Tapia's been working training with Roberto Alcazar up in Big Bear. All that having been said, here in the fight with Jesse Miranda, Johnny Tapia's doing what he has to do. He's landing some good punches. He's throwing good hooks to the body, occasional straight right hands like that, and basically getting the job done.
We haven't seen a lull. This is very significant for him to make sure he doesn't show that lull in a non-title bout here.
So we head into round 3. We'll be back.
Hello from
Tapia set this up with a jab, and then he comes downstairs, works the body very well, ties up so he doesn't get hit, and creates some punching room for himself. Good work here by Tapia.
Typical of Johnny Tapia, work on the inside. We're into round 3, and you know, I said he was the same old Johnny Tapia, but I'll throw this out for discussion. He wasn't quite as wild and reckless in the first round or two as we've seen from him in the past.
Now, a little bit more jabbing, more boxing.
All right, break.
To get the hand
Come here,
old Johnny Tapia.
guys. All right?
Joe Cortez will take it.
Head back.
Jesse Miranda not afraid to mix it up with Tapia when the occasion calls for it,
Get those eyes out of there. Get him out of there.
but has not done so to great effect.
Are you talking about the different Johnny Tapias we might see?
All right, break.
The fight we did on Top Rank Boxing last year against Antonio Ruiz was maybe the last time we saw the typical stand-up Johnny Tapia, 10-round route-going performance, all boxing. He may tend later in his career to go back toward that. The question now will be how far with the influence of Alcazar.
Of course, there's good hooks downstairs by Tapia and a good hook to the head. Of course, the name Roberto Alcazar, he will be working later this evening with Oscar De La Hoya. And, if you listen closely,
Break out clean.
Roberto Alcazar as he to his fighting.
Well, Miranda really trying to rough up Tapia here, succeeding in some spurts. We're seeing a little bit more tying up by Johnny Tapia than we have in other fights as he tries to get the leverage, get the range, and disrupt the momentum of Miranda when he doesn't like the way the fight is going.
Miranda, who, as you see, is a left-hander, is 23 years old. He is the current Arizona State Junior Bantamweight champion. He won that by beating Barajas in that fight I talked about. There is the left hook downstairs. That one got to Miranda, I think, a little bit. Tapia has one of the best left hooks to the body, maybe in boxing.
You see him get the leverage. He leans forward and gets everything into that left hook to the body. And then he looked over Miranda, who is shorter, to his corner right here. Point you were making before, he was able to land the punch and get instruction at the same time.
Good use of his time.
And a grade.
Just seconds remaining here in round 3. It's scheduled for 10. I'm delighted you joined us for this little boxing extra, we might call it. An added bonus here on ESPN2. We will return for round 4. Stay with us.
Everybody talks about
Champion. He'll be fighting later on this evening here at Caesars Palace against Bones Adams in what could be a terrific fight.
That should be an intriguing matchup with Kelly in his last couple fights getting hit with right hands, and Bones Adams, somebody on ESPN who we've seen develop quietly in the last couple of years. This could be his night.
Good matchup. For now, we are watching Johnny Tapia against Jesse Miranda in our ESPN2 boxing special. We're at the round 4. It is scheduled for 10. That is Tapia in the purple trunks and Jesse Bam Bam Miranda in the black trunks.
Tapia showing the veteran skills he has, outlanding Miranda by a 2-to-1 ratio through 3 rounds, even though they've both relatively thrown the same amount of punches. That's Tapia showing the defense here, the boxing skills, and taking advantage of his reach.
Those numbers provided to you by Punch Profile. There is a takedown by Miranda, making it look a little bit like the Ultimate Fighting Championships, or whatever those are. Is that what those are called?
The Ultimate Fighting Championships, World Combat, WWF, will have a unification.
Okay. In those, you could take the man down. Here, it's frowned upon. Joe Cortez getting in between the two fighters. With all the action on the inside, Dave, we still haven't seen heads come together in any cuts, thank goodness.
Fortunately, the heads have been bobbing the right way to avoid that, and also a lot of tying up, which is a little bit uncharacteristic of Tapia in his fights here. He likes to be performing on all cylinders. He doesn't really like a slow-paced fight. He likes a good boxing situation, but this is not typical Tapia tying up, especially a smaller man here.
One thing Johnny Tapia is doing is ripping that left hook.
We've seen it the last couple of rounds especially. And when he focuses on a target at the body, he really pounds it like it's a piece of meat.
Very few men get the kind of leverage he does into that hook, and Miranda, being a lefty, is a little more susceptible to it. Now, Miranda's throwing that big, wide left hand. As bad as that looks, you get the feeling it might land still.
It still might land. I'm a little surprised that Tapia has not made him pay for that yet, with the big right coming up to shoot, because it's open. I mean, Tapia can throw the lead right. He can also throw the counter right off the wide shot there by Miranda.
A minute left to go here, round 4. Johnny Tapia, the WBO Super Bantamweight title holder. He won that back in October of 1994 in a fight that we televised on ESPN in Albuquerque. And it was a magical evening. But boy, the dynamics of everything are changing, aren't they? Romero loses, Tapia moves out of Albuquerque. That whole scenario is in flux now.
If you were doing the movie on Johnny Tapia, you ended it that night that we were in Albuquerque for the title fight. Yeah, and it always points up how in boxing, when you have a chance to make a big fight, make it, because it won't come around. It won't stay hot for too long.
Amen, brother. Under 20 seconds left to go here in round 4. There's the hook again by Tapia. He has done excellent work, but Jesse Miranda, not even close to being hurt by any of these, it doesn't look like, but Tapia's getting the job done. We'll be back.
This picture, but we will see a little bit of a takedown here as Tapia comes together with Miranda. A nice little turn. That is a 2-pointer. Very good.
Now, in Vince McMahon's wrestling, when you get him down like that, you're supposed to, like, rub him on the eyes, aren't you?
That's right. Well, that's why he needs a little more training.
Oh, okay. We are headed into the midpoint of this fight. And Johnny Tapia comes out to meet Jesse Miranda. Tapia, who, as we said, is the WBO Super Bantamweight champ. His record is 30-0-2, 2 draws with 18 KOs. And Miranda 11-3 with 6 KOs. Johnny Tapia inactive from near the end of 1990 to the middle of 1994. He had horrendous drug problems and came back to the sport astonishingly, Dave. And I don't know of any fighter that's done this or any athlete better than when he went away.
More or less the exception that proves the rule.
Big right hurts Miranda. And there's Tapia using the hook to get after him.
Real chance to do major damage here for Tapia.
Good hook by Tapia. So Johnny Tapia throwing all the right punches, and there's another takedown by Miranda.
Well, that time it wasn't as premeditated as last round. He had to keep himself up by pushing Tapia down. He was hurt by that exchange.
So Johnny Tapia gets Miranda against the ropes, and Miranda holds on. Lots of time left in this round as well. So for Jesse Miranda, he's going to have to do his best at surviving.
And Miranda is not a big puncher, so he's in a very gruesome situation here as Tapia decides to open up. If you're Miranda, you're hoping that Tapia comes in here and just stays on cruise control the whole time and fights like a non-title bout. But as Tapia gets animated, that's trouble.
Yeah, you're right. And Miranda hit him behind the head with a rabbit punch, and Tapia got mad. One thing about Tapia, and you can tell he's making a concerted effort, and this may be part of what's going on with him and Alcazar in the new situation. He's making a concerted effort to contain his emotions. Is that good?
To some extent, although I do think he needs a little bit of the animation he showed in Albuquerque with the fans rooting him on. You want a combination of Alcazar's influence and the Albuquerque factor. You never really want that to leave him.
A minute left to go in round 5. A knockdown in this round of Jesse Miranda. It is the first knockdown of the fight. First time really Miranda has been hurt. Tapia hit him with a good right hand and then finished. There's the right, like the one he hurt him with. And then he followed with some beautiful left hooks.
And if he hones in on that right hand, look out. Now Tapia putting his shoulders up as he went in there to avoid getting hit. That's a nice little wrinkle that we haven't seen too much of. He is thinking defense as he's coming in. Maybe that's one benefit of this fight for him.
And a nice left uppercut in that there by Tapia. He's got a tremendous arsenal of punches, always has. And maybe that's one that's been underused. There's Miranda trying to work on the inside. His offense has been sparse at best in the last several rounds.
Tapia is trying to turn that right hand off shoulder movement. He's working on that. Once in a while it's getting in. Not all the time.
All right, we'll be back.
Hi, I'm Tina. This is my...
Putting the pressure on Miranda here. Miranda walks in nice. Little uppercut attempt, a spin around. Left hook by Tapia. Another left hook. And you get a look at that shot of the balance that fighters need to perform well in the sport. Miranda losing his, and that's why Tapia has a holiday in there. Good another look at it here as Miranda gets driven back, and Tapia goes to work, knowing that that's his opportunity. I like how he went upstairs after he saw the body block.
Tried that little left uppercut to the head. So we're into round 6. It is scheduled for 10. And Jesse Miranda, the 23-year-old from Phoenix, is hanging in there, even though he was knocked down in the last round. But he managed to right himself. And really, there were almost 2 minutes left in that round when he was knocked down, David. He still survived rather well.
He showed pretty good skills all the way in getting through that round, and he has been unruffled throughout the fight. With 5 precincts reporting so far in this poll, Tapia has thrown 196, landed 101. Miranda has thrown more, 221, but has only landed 51. We talked about Tapia's defense, how he's working on it. That's a good indication that he is succeeding.
Johnny Tapia landing twice as many punches as Miranda. Those numbers courtesy of Punch Profile.
Bring up.
Ringside, Logan Hobson, 2 minutes left to go here in round 6. Al Bernstein along with Dave Bontempo. Delighted you joined us here on ESPN2. The sun starts to set a little bit here in the late afternoon in Las Vegas. It's a warm one.
Yeah, they don't welcome that sun coming down here. That will reduce the temperature in the ring maybe to about 125.
Good straight right hand by Tapia, set up by the jab. And you can see as the fighters get into the shadows there. It's the time of day when you come home from school and watch the ball games, and the baseball would go from the sun into the shadow. How do those guys ever hit the ball that way?
All of a sudden, mediocre pitchers, their ERAs go way down at that time of the day.
Yeah, so how come that never worked for my Cub pitchers at Wrigley Field? Their ERA kept going up. Tapia switches to lefty.
That's why there's been the drought, my friend.
Amen to that, too. Good right hand by Miranda. Good right hook. And that's a punch he's thrown very little of in this fight.
It's been there for him, too, but he's had to go over the top of Tapia's jab to get that punch home, and sometimes it has to travel too far. Tapia also punching over the top of Miranda here.
Joe Cortez, the referee, has done a nice job in this fight because it's been a difficult fight to referee. He had to really take control. Things like that happening a lot. He's right there to handle it.
And he has to make sure that the fighters don't get too emotional in situations where they could be pushed over the top. The referee can make a big difference in there when he'll get in there and say, okay, back to business, do what you've been doing, do this, and not take favoritism toward one fighter.
We wind down in round 6. Footnotes. Joe Cortez refereed the fight you did last night with Danny Romero and Willie Salazar. So he looked in on one upset, but so... We return as you look from above the ring here at the outdoor stadium at Caesars Palace. Here on ESPN2, round 7. Johnny Tapia in the purple trunks and the black. It's Jesse Miranda. It's been a fight that was dominated by Tapia. I inadvertently said there was a knockdown in the last round. There was not. He had him hurt, Jesse Miranda. And it has been a fight pretty much dominated by Tapia.
Tapia's good defensive skills, staying on top of the jab. Miranda in the last round for the first time got more punches in than Tapia. Tapia coming right at him here, though.
An economy of punches by Tapia when he gets the fighter against the ropes, which has sometimes been the case.
A little surprising that Miranda wants to tie Tapia up and then not work when he does that. You can understand Tapia wanting to tie up. He's got the reach advantage to begin with, and maybe he can punch out of there. But Miranda tying up is simply losing the fight worse.
In that last sequence, Johnny Tapia landed 4 tremendous body shots, which set up the right hand for the head of Miranda. Halfway through round 7, as we mentioned, the shadow situation here at ringside. Fighters are in and out of it. Doesn't really play too much of into the actual action too much, so.
Unless you're hurt, and they say, well, you know, look, throw it for the middle guy when there's 3 guys coming at you when you're hurt. You might throw for the shadow, but otherwise, we've seen some major fights here in afternoon venues, and fighters do get used to that. Maybe the first time, but after that, they're pretty well into it.
Nothing else, just to have some shade, as you said. Oh, Tapia. Is that a knockdown or is that a slip?
It's called a slip, and maybe a shot by Miranda. Tapia looking at Miranda like it was a dirty shot after they'd been spun out.
Now, Miranda did hit him. It looked like when he was on the way down or down from the slip. And Miranda got a clean shot away at Tapia. Hit him, but didn't hurt him.
Miranda should be gambling here more because this is his showcase, whatever the outcome is. He wants to make a statement here. He wants to be realized and known after this fight. He can't come out and simply look like a sparring session for Tapia. He needs to make something happen, even if he gets knocked out doing it.
Jesse Miranda came in here with an 11-3 record. Now, there's a butt by Miranda. That was pretty blatant. And Tapia gets mad and throws him around. Some of the desperation and the aggressiveness from Miranda manifesting itself in an illegal maneuver there. As we conclude round 7, we will hang in here and listen in a little bit. Let's listen in. That's Roberto Alcazar. Go.
Well, fighters, there's Joe Cortez in the middle. He's responding. Here's Miranda throwing a wide-angle shot. Catching Tapia there, and then with Tapia in the ropes, Joe Cortez comes over. He had been giving instructions before then, probably why that wasn't ruled a knockdown. I guess punching on the break, which it appeared to be, and then there's the butt by Miranda, and Johnny Tapia with a little shot. You know, they don't care at that moment what the referee is going to say. They don't want to be taken advantage of in any way, and so Tapia threw his little right hand.
We head into round 8. It is scheduled for 10 rounds. And Johnny Tapia in the purple trunks and the black. It is Jesse Miranda, the
all right, break out clean,
step back. Phoenix, who is 11-3. Tapia is the super bantamweight champion of the WBO. The title is not on the line in this match.
We've talked about the reach advantage of Johnny Tapia, the height, how would he use it? Miranda has landed 9 of 126 jabs in this fight, trying to come up with the reach disadvantage there. He's had a major difficulty getting through to Tapia. And Tapia is only 12 of 43, but he has shown it enough to make Miranda miss wildly with his.
And against the lefty, normally you're not going to land a big percentage of jabs. We head into round 8. Some perhaps thought it might not go this long. Tapia is a good puncher. Miranda is a big underdog. Miranda's hurt right now. He was hurt in round 6, and he's hurt again. Let's see if Tapia can take advantage of it.
Clubbing right hand by Tapia once, and now he comes in. We haven't seen Tapia as willing to gamble in this fight as much. Here he's coming down a little bit. We saw some good body work in the earlier rounds. Now he's dipping down, but he's had trouble reaching Miranda at times, punching down and missing. I think the uppercut would be a good shot for him.
Yeah, he used it earlier, halfway through round 8. You know, I was just thinking, you're in the bantamweight or light bantamweight or super bantamweight division, or flyweight. I got to tell you, you run into a million lefties, don't you? And it makes life difficult for you.
There are so many things you can't do. They have a higher percentage of lefties in those weight classes, and has to change your style all the way around. You better be a good right-hand lead fighter, good left hooks, and able to punch down at those smaller fighters.
And you really almost can't avoid having to fight them on occasion.
No, and in the other sense, then, once you fight a couple, you should be better at fighting lefties than other fighters in other divisions.
That's the way.
Under a minute left to go here in round 8. Good uppercut. Dave said it was a good punch, and it was. And Johnny Tapia used it to good effect there against Miranda. About a half minute left to go here in round 8. In this round, Miranda has been stunned as he was in round 6, but he's coming forward now. Walks into a good left jab and a right hand by Tapia. Tapia switching to left. He's done that about 3 or 4 times in this fight.
I really don't like this for him. It shows he's doing more of working on certain things during a fight rather than trying to win the fight itself. That's something you do in the gym. Now he's back off it, which is a wise decision, I think.
Little blood, I think, from the nose of Johnny Tapia. First good news for Miranda. A bad butt.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Keep it going. Hold. Hold.
The rivals.
Well, what happened toward the end of the last round, and it just ended, was Johnny Tapia got butted very badly in the nose, and they gave him some time, then just ended the round. There was only like a second left in the round. Very bad butt that hurt the nose of Johnny Tapia.
You can get up to 5 minutes. He didn't need it, but you can break a nose that way. There's all kind of dangers involved in these type of fights. You can break your hand, you can get cut, and then you can get the Miranda blast right in your nose, which is what Tapia did, and the expression tells it all. That's why every fight is a risk, no matter who you're in there with. Always try to get the most money you can. Johnny Tapia there in a fight he's controlling has something he's not going to be happy with that he'll carry out of this fight.
And that was Roberto Alcazar there working on the nose. Chuck Bodek is the cut man in the corner. And there already had been blood from Tapia's nose before that. We head into round 9. And so some danger for Johnny Tapia as Miranda came rushing in with his head. And I won't go so far as to say that was a deliberate headbutt, but he did come in with his head first.
Well, as he lands a good left hand there, Miranda is trying to make up for the lack of size he's got by trying to make up the difference by doing it with his head. It's a natural tendency for fighters, and if they get away with it, they can keep doing it, but this continues to get ugly.
It is turning into an ugly affair, primarily because of Miranda, in truth. He's just a little bit outmanned, and he's trying to do his best. Now, in the 6th and 8th rounds, Miranda was hurt, and Tapia has fairly much controlled this bout. But in the last 3 or 4 rounds, I think it's safe to say Johnny has done less effective work than he did earlier.
And Miranda has come on and been aggressive at points, getting in a shot here and there, trying to go to the body, but there he continues, and he ties up on his own accord. When you're the smaller fighter and you're tying up voluntarily, not a good move.
Break out, step back.
And Johnny Tapia's biggest concern is the head.
He's kind of in a prevent defense right now.
Break out.
You know, at a certain point, Joe Cortez could make a determination to take a point away from Miranda for all the holding.
And I'll tell you what, I think there's a reason he hasn't done it up till now. He must know, even though referees don't score, that taking a point from Miranda is like robbing the poor. What else can happen to the guy? He's not in the fight, so what does a point do?
Good left by Miranda, but here comes Johnny Tapia with the right hand.
Now, you brought up the point earlier about the Albuquerque factor for Tapia. Had this fight been there, the crowd would be screaming. You'd see a different animated Tapia, very mad, probably going for it here.
That is a very good point, because I don't think he can even control how that impacts the way he fights.
He told me yesterday he figured he would wave the hand on and try to get the crowd going, and that will take time to build up no matter where he fights, and he's not doing it here.
There's a nice right hand. There's a beautiful combination. That's Johnny Tapia at his best. But over the first 5 rounds of this fight, we saw that a lot. In the last 3 or 4, we've seen it less and less. Certainly, Tapia would be ahead. Have you given Miranda any rounds in this fight, Dave?
Gave him one a couple rounds ago when he did land more punches than Tapia, but that is it.
And a good flurry by Tapia. So this is Tapia's best round in the last 4 or 5. He's dominated this 9th round, and I think landed some pretty telling blows to the head of Miranda.
It's been overall partly because of the style, too, a more measured performance for Tapia than others.
Let's go to Rich Miranda with a very special guest.
All right, thanks, Al. And tonight's the night for Gennaro Hernandez as he fights Oscar De La Hoya for the World Lightweight Championship. Gennaro, I know it's a night that you've dreamt about for so long. Can you believe it's finally here?
I'm glad it's here. I wish I would be up in the ring right now doing my thing because, I mean, in reality, you know, people underestimated me, and I hope to prove them wrong tonight.
Well, you mentioned people underestimating you. Of course, the odds have been rather severely against you. Have you felt insulted by that? You're a champion yourself.
No, I mean, you know, everybody has their opinion. You know, if they think Oscar is in for an easy night, they got something else coming to them.
What do you think that Oscar is going to bring to the table against you tonight? What do you expect to see in De La Hoya this evening?
Well, he might come in a little more settled down. He's not going to come in the way he did with Rafael and everybody else. He knows that I'm a good fighter. I think he's a good fighter too, but one of us going to have to lose, and I wouldn't even going to lose tonight.
All right, Gennaro, thanks a lot. Good luck this evening against De La Hoya.
Thank you very much.
And here is yet another takedown, which has occurred in this bout, wild though it is. Now watch the head of Miranda, the wrapping up. They come together, and Miranda is on top for a second, but not lost.
We head into round 10, and Jesse Miranda is showing you that were he a little bigger, he might make a nice safety in football.
He hasn't missed a tackle thus far in this fight.
He has not. He's 3 for 3 in the tackling department, so Johnny has gained no yardage. It is the 10th and final round. Johnny Tapia, the WBO Super Bantamweight title holder, in the purple trunks. In the black is Jesse Miranda, the youngster from Phoenix, Arizona, 23-year-old, who has gone the distance so far, at least with Tapia. We think he's way behind on the scorecard. That's our unofficial view. He's not been down, but he was hurt in the 6th and 8th round, and you might make a case he was hurt in the 9th round. You know, David, it appears to me that Tapia could throw that straight right hand, even the lead right hand, a little bit more.
He really has been focusing more on jab and techniques in this fight, more boxing. We saw him cut loose to the body earlier in this fight, and I agree. That right hand lead against the southpaw style should have been used more during this fight. And when fighters get into certain modes and certain type of bouts, they sometimes get stuck in them and don't come out.
Halfway through the 10th round, and for Tapia, who is not defending his WBO title, but is looking ahead to bigger paydays, he is performing in a very workmanlike fashion. Might have wanted a knockout in this bout, but is showing some skills, and you can almost feel another throwdown by Miranda. You can almost feel Johnny Tapia's working his way through, working with a different man training him.
Working on certain things, and he has not cut loose at times the way you'd like to see. That's why in non-title fights, you do see fighters come down a notch or so, and the good ones will maintain a certain level regardless of the type of a fight they're in and come up with their close to their best performance. But we have seen non-title bouts usually a recipe for disaster.
Going all the way back to Villamar Fernandez and Alexis Arguello. Remember that one years and years ago? That was one of the first in my viewing of boxing that was a huge upset. We saw one last night with Danny Romero.
And going back to Tommy Ayers, how his career had been built on ESPN, he decided to have a little tune-up before a title fight and never got his title fight.
Got knocked out early in that one, as I recall. So under a half-minute left to go here in the 10th and final round. And unless something dramatic happens, it looks as if Johnny Tapia will get his win and avoid the fate of his rival, Danny Romero, who lost last night in a non-title bout. And Tapia in the prevent defense with just seconds to go. We'll be back to find out who won this 10-rounder, so don't go anywhere. Well, Johnny Tapia got it done to a great extent with those lead right hands, and of course mixed in some double left hooks and an arsenal of weapons. There was a lot of this during the fight. Miranda mostly doing it, throwing Johnny Tapia around a little bit. And that happened, I'd say, 4 or 5 times during the course of this bout. There were no points taken away from Miranda, but we'll find out what the final outcome is. Let's go to Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards here at Caesars Palace. Patricia Gorman scores it out 99 and 91. Dick Houck has it 97-93, and Glenn Crawford scores it 99-91 for the winner by unanimous decision. Still undefeated, the baby-faced assassin, Johnny Tapia.
Well, there's Johnny Tapia taking a little victory lap, and when he's done with that, he'll end up back with our man, Dave Bontempo. He gets the win in this non-title fight. Let's go up to Dave. He's with Johnny.
Okay, thanks, Al. Johnny, did this seem like an ugly fight in the last 5 rounds here?
It was a big, ugly fight. The guy kept on hitting me with head bunts, you know. All these small fighters always do that to me. You know, I was trying to keep him outside, trying to show him my new movements. He just kept on coming hard with his head.
It also seemed like, now you talked about the new movements. Were you thinking half defense in there at times, too? It looked like you were very cautious of that, and maybe did it affect your offense here?
Yeah, very much, but I'm still going to go back to the gym tomorrow, you know, and waiting to see if Danny's okay for me and him can have a big fight. But I'm going to get better each fight now. I'm back in school and I'm learning. So that's the most important thing. I'd like to give Oscar De La Hoya and Robert a lot of thanks and praise for letting me go to Big Bear.
Okay, congratulations, Johnny. You get the victory. We'll see you again soon.